us for title to do a refinance, a cash out refi. We had power of attorney papers from the grandson that the grandparents had signed, and we went through with the closing, and the grandson ended up doing this cash out refi and forging his grandparents' signatures on the power of attorney. So here they sit. Now there's $100,000 owing on their house. The kid took off with the money, you know, yada, yada, yada. Well, they had an owner's policy. And so the title insurance company ended up paying the mortgage off on their behalf. So that alone, you know, that's $100,000. That's pretty big. You know, so there is one huge benefit right there. And then when you look at impersonation of the true owners, that would be him as well. Mental incompetence of the grantors on the deed. So on a deed, the seller is considered the grantor and the buyer is considered the grantee. So if someone sells and they have their mental incompetence, Alzheimer's disease, and somebody kind of pushed them into doing this, that would protect you as well. We would resolve all of that on your behalf. So what exactly can make the title to your home defective is what you're wondering. I just know you are. When you purchase your home, you take title to the property. Any number of problems that remain undisclosed, even after the most meticulous search of public records, can make a title defective. We do a 40-year search on every purchase of any property. So we go back, that's the legal, you can do 20, 30, or 40-year searches. We always do 40-year searches just to make sure everything's cleaned up, you know, back farther. The hidden defects are dangerous because you may or may not be aware of them for months or years after you purchase your home. The defects, could cost you substantial sums in legal fees or worse, result in the loss of your property. We had another case, I think we've had less than 10 claims in the 24 years that I've been here, but we did have one that they had been living in the house for about a year, and somehow somebody discovered there was a pipeline running underneath that had been missed. The surveyor missed it, the plat guys missed it, from the house being purchased and repurchased and repurchased. So we ended up, our underwriter paid their mortgage off. They either could give the home to us or we would pay it off and they would live in it free and clear, and then they could sell it or do what they wanted with it. So that was what they chose at that time, was to just have us pay it off. So again, title insurance is important. And then a lot of people wonder, won't that lender's title insurance policy protect me? Because it is title insurance after all. But again, no, there's two types, the lender's policy and the owner's policy. The lender's title policy covers them. It ensures that they have a valid enforceable lien on the property. Most, if not all, lenders require that type of insurance, and they typically require the borrower or buyer to pay for it. Even if you're doing a refinance later, you still have to get the lender's title insurance, and the lender requires you to pay for it. So then we kind of put together a little top 10 things you should know about the closing process. Once we've flipped through this, we will we'll go ahead and talk more about the actual closing and so on. So with all the changes, the CFPB, the TILA, RESPA, TRID, all of that, there are so many new rules. And so in order to ensure a timely closing, the best thing that you want to do is make sure you communicate constantly with your lender, your real estate agent, and your settlement provider. Settlement provider is your title company, whether it's the closer, the closing assistant, or what. So let's look at those top 10 things. Number one, time is of the essence. We've all had that story that things come up last minute before the closing and this, that, and the other thing. So to avoid delays or a postponement of your closing, be sure to respond to your lender and settlement company as quickly as you can. If they ask you for W-2s, get them as quick as you can, scan, email, do what you need to do, get them to them. As a title company, we're going to ask for your signature to authorize us to get payoffs, to pay off any loans. If that's on a refi, I'm sorry, on a purchase, we basically search same and similar names to see if there's any judgments that pop up. Remember, again, you have a choice. When it comes to service providers associated with your closing, the choice is yours. Choose your title company, choose your agent, choose whoever to take you through the journey. Number 3, protecting your information. As an additional security measure to protect your non-public personal information, you may receive secure emails from your lender and settlement service provider. Follow the instructions for retrieving it. A lot of times you have to, create an account and log into it and that type of thing. As a title company, we send secure email. We either send it encrypted where you have to go ahead and fill out and, apply for that account, or if we do it through our Close Simple, then it's already protected and we can communicate back and forth. Number 4, the loan estimate, the LE, it'll be sent to you within 3 days of your loan app. That's on the lender side. Then the terms provided on the estimate will appear on the closing disclosure. So the buzzword now is CD, everybody's CD, and that's the closing disclosure. It used to be called a HUD. Lenders are required to explain any changes in fees on the CD. Number 5, preparing for closing. Approximately 10 to 14 days before you're scheduled to sign your docs, you should be prepared to constantly communicate with your lender, agent, and title company. It will be very important for you. You have to provide your hazard insurance information, which is your homeowner's insurance. They need a binder showing that a year's worth has been paid. And all wiring instructions will be subject to strict verifications. Wire fraud is serious, it's real, it's not going anywhere, it's getting worse. Discuss it with your closing professionals well in advance. So if you're asked to bring money to the closing for any reason and you decide you want to wire it, we are not going to just, here's a wire form, go for it. Everything will get verified. We'll be making phone calls and probably emails and whatnot just to verify so that we know there isn't anything fraudulent going on. Number 6, again, the closing disclosure, the CD, will be used for most loan applications. It'll be sent directly to you and not your real estate agent. You are the buyer, you're running the show, so to speak. And so if you choose to involve your real estate agent in that piece of it, that's entirely up to you. The CD has been designed and redesigned to make it easier for you to understand the terms of your loan. And when you see one, you'll understand, excuse me, that it is very simplified, although with all of the simplification, it almost looks complicated because it's added pages. But when you get to that point, your lender, your title company, anybody will be able to go through line by line with you so that you understand exactly who's paying for what on all of that. Number 7, 3-day review period. The closing disclosure must be delivered to the buyer consumer at least 3 business days prior to signing the documents. So that is one of the new government rules. So if the CD is delivered via email, it's very important for you to acknowledge receipt to avoid delays. For argument's sake, if it gets emailed to you on Monday and you wait until Wednesday to acknowledge receipt, you start all over and the clock starts ticking all over again. The CD may also be snail mailed 7 days in advance and does not require proof of receipt. If we do it that way, the timestamp, the envelope, whatever, is what covers the time limitation on that one. This time allows you to share it with your agent, attorney, financial advisor, ask questions, get clarifications from your lender about the terms or conditions. If this is your first time buying a home and you want to go through it with your parents, your siblings, your kids, whatever, this gives you enough time to go ahead and share it and go through it with others. But again, one of the most important things is just remember communication. Reach out at any time. Some people like phone calls, some like email. You'll figure that out very soon after you're working with a lender or a title company, on what the quickest, easiest way is to communicate. Don't ever be afraid to ask questions. It's the unanswered questions that create problems later if you don't completely understand. Because when we get to, the point of sitting at the table and closing, things are very different than what they used to be. Okay, so number 8, that lender's title insurance policy. Lenders typically require their borrowers to purchase a lender's policy for the purchase price of the loan. And remember, again, the lender's policy protects the lender, not the borrower or buyer. So owner's title insurance. First thing we do is what you'll want to do is research the value and importance of an owner's title insurance policy early on in the process of obtaining a loan and closing on the purchase. So when you do your loan application and you figure out, you find the home and you come up with a loan amount or a purchase price, your lender will be able to help you with an estimate on what the owner's title insurance policy would actually cost you. So then you'll want to take a look at that, kind of try to balance it out. Think of an attorney, think if something goes wrong, can we afford this right now? That kind of thing. In the state of Wisconsin, the seller is required to pay for the owner's policy for the buyer, but that's only in Wisconsin, so not Minnesota. So, some things never hurt to ask. And home buyers often assume that the lender's insurance policy protects them from challenges to their ownership rights. That's not the case. I know I've probably said it 10 times throughout here already, but remember, the owner's title policy covers you. The lender's title policy covers the lender. So just always remember, owners is for owners, lenders is for the mortgage company. If needed, the insurance also provides coverage for attorney's fees associated with legal challenges to your property's ownership. So again, some of the adverse matters would be undisclosed errors, omissions in deeds, ownership challenges, and errors. And again, like I said before, and it comes up often, ask questions. Ask lots of questions. Don't ever think that that's not the way to go. So those are the kind of top 10 things that we look at, from the process from beginning to end that are important for you to note and understand. So where exactly does the title company fit in the home buying process? So as we know, the process goes, you apply for your loan to get your pre-approval, because nowadays you have to have a pre-approval letter with your offer that your realtor presents for you. Then you look at houses with your realtor, and then the happy day comes, you find your dream home. So then you go through and you sign the purchase agreement or purchase contract. The seller either accepts it or counters. You get all of the counter offers back and forth, back and forth. You set up your home inspection. You probably do some more bantering after that on who's going to pay for what if there are small repairs that need to be done. And then at that point, when the final agreement is signed, it gets sent to your lender. Then the lender sends a title order to the title company along with a copy of that signed purchase agreement. So then we queue up the title company. So here is where we really start working your file. A couple of things. One, we have a software program that anytime anything happens with your file, when the file gets opened, it sends the buyer's real estate agent, and the lender an email and a text message saying, hey, we got your file and it's open. Then when the commitment gets completed and it gets sent out to the lender, another set of text messages and emails go out that say, hey, the title commitment is completed and we've sent it to your lender. So you're ready, they're ready to, take the next step. And then when we schedule the closing, the emails and the texts go out again. So we try to keep in communication so that you know what's going on every step of the way. We call it the title pizza tracker, so to speak, because it kind of gives you the steps along the way. And then it'll go ahead and send you a text message and an email if you provide those for us. So it's important that we have your information. So now we have the title order and we have your signed contract. So now we have a production team that will go through and verify the property address, the legal description, and the PID for the property. That is the property ID number or the PIN number, some counties call it. So we just need to make sure that we're searching the correct property. If for some reason the address gets written wrong on the purchase agreement, you know, people transpose, things happen, or the legal, we just want to verify that the sellers listed on that contract are actually the people that are entitled on the property that we're searching. So then once we are verified that all that information is correct, we will then open that file in our title software. And again, once we open that, that's going to kick out that first text message and that first email saying, we've got your file, here we go. A really good idea for you is when you get that text message or that email, it's going to list the property address, it's going to have your names, it's going to have, you know, some information on it and what our file number is and so on. Probably the best thing you could do is verify all the information at that point. Or we've sometimes had where one of the parties received the email but the other didn't. And so then they'll call me and say, hey, my wife didn't get this email, and I'll realize we don't have her email address. So I'll get that put in the system. If you notice your name is spelled wrong, if you notice the property address looks different or something, don't hesitate to call, and the sooner the better, so that we get everything right from the get-go. We are humans, errors are going to happen. We like to keep that to a bare minimum, of course, but you know, we are people. So then we order the required products and services that we're going to need to complete this title commitment, which is a commitment for insurance for the lender's policy and the owner's policy to the lender. So we order the abstracting. So the abstracting. Now, years ago, you had to go down to the courthouse and go in these dusty basement rooms and pull out these giant books and open all the pages and try and find your lot and your block on, you know, cross-reference things and your plat name and dig and then write down the document numbers and then go to a microfiche machine and pull the copies of the documents that relate to the property. Well, now, thank goodness, things are online. So we do a 40-year search on every property. We want to make sure we go back far enough to find any kind of you know, things that pop up that are abnormal. We actually will look, and if a mortgage was taken out in 1927, we want to make sure it was satisfied. So we go, okay, here's the satisfaction for that, so that one's gone. And we go through all those years worth. Were there any lot splits? Were there any, you know, anything that could have come up on that property? Bankruptcies, foreclosures, we follow through to make sure that the foreclosure was done properly and all the correct legal documents were filed, so that you don't have to ever worry about that. And then we order a plat drawing, which is the measurements of the lot, the measurements of the structures, and they get drawn on a diagram, any easements, any encroachments. An encroachment is a problem. If your neighbor has a shed and it's scooted over the property line on your property by a foot, it's considered encroaching your property. So at that point, we get a hold of the neighbor and say, you have to move this shed, you know, unless you make another agreement with them that you say it's okay. Then we do an assessment search, which is we're looking for any special assessments for road repairs, past due water bills, things like that. So then we deal with that. Then we also order, lenders require a flood certification to determine whether your property is in a flood zone or not. If it is, they're going to require you to purchase flood insurance. That is something that it's your responsibility to take care of that. You would check with your homeowner's insurance, and I'm not 100% if it's a separate policy or if you include it in your other homeowner's regular policy, but I know it is quite expensive. And then you would have to make sure that your lender is listed as the loss payee on that. Okay, so now we've ordered all the products from the outside that we need to just get the commitment completed. So once the above items are sent back to the title company, we have an attorney that looks through all the searches and documents and writes the file up. We call it examining, writing the file up, because then it pushes over to the production team who actually types the commitment, and then someone else proofs it. And then when it's ready to go, we send it out to your lender. That's when that other text and email will go out that your commitment is done and it's been sent to your lender. So we also have assistant title closers, and they're the ones that will reach out and find out, you know, is there a homeowners association, those kind of things, so that everything gets covered. And in Minnesota, how it works, if you're the buyer, your lender orders title work and the title commitment gets put together and the seller has their title company, we send our title work to the seller side and they have to clear title. They have to deal with any assessments, they have to deal with old mortgages, they have to deal with all of that on the seller's side. We assist them in any way that we can, but that's how it's done in Minnesota and Wisconsin. I'm not 100% about other states. We are licensed here in Minnesota and Wisconsin. And then when we get to that point, it's pretty much up to your lender. Your lender drives the transaction at this point. They will get that appraisal, they'll get your bank statements, your W-2s, anything else they need from you, as long as they have it all, then they turn it into their underwriting department. Then the underwriters go through, make sure that the loan will be government saleable. So are all the I's dotted and the T's crossed? Do we have everything in the file that we need? And then if we do, they'll get the clear to close. And once the lender gives us the clear to close, then we reach out to you and your agent, and we find out, and the lender's highly involved because there's a lock. When you lock, there's a certain amount of time that you've locked your loan for, that if the lock expires, we can't close after that date. So we have multiple people involved in that piece of it. Then we go ahead and we schedule that closing. If, for instance, you are here in Minnesota and you're in the metro area, we will schedule you to close in our new Brighton office. If you are out somewhere else in Minnesota, Wisconsin, we have notary contract closers all over the state of Minnesota and Wisconsin that will send them to you. We will set up that closing for whatever is the most convenient for you, whether it's, you know, at your home, at the property that you're purchasing. You can't really, with COVID, it's kind of tough. We used to meet at coffee shops and things like that, which is, you know, not such a great idea right now. But that, you know, we'll find a place that works best for you, because this is your, you know, you're the star of the show when you're buying a home. The other thing to remember is, if for some reason, you know, if you are here in the metro and you're closing in our office, because of COVID, things are much different than they used to be. We now have sanitized rooms. We have plexiglass that we use if we're closing on a purchase. If you're a first-time home buyer, we're going to sit in that room with you at a distance with the plexiglass in between, passing things back and forth, everybody wearing masks. Otherwise, we take the actual package, you know, however thick they are, for you to sign, and we put sign here flags on it. And then you go in the room, we don't go in with you. We kind of stay out in the hall and walk back and forth and answer any questions, that kind of thing. And then when you're finished, then we take that back, take all those little stickers off, and just make sure that we hopefully didn't miss anything. And then you're free to go, and usually your agent will be outside. Agents are not invited to the party right now because of COVID. The only people that we allow in are the people that are actually there to sign documents. So that's kind of how the closing goes nowadays. And like I said, things have really changed a lot in the last year and a half. But just, you know, for your own peace of mind, I want you to remember, every side of the transaction needs a closing company, a settlement agent. And you have a choice. You're the one that makes that choice. And again, we have partnered with Unity One for a long time now. And if we can close on their, you know, any of their first mortgage loans, we do that. We are a CUSO, Credit Union Service Organization, owned by 54 mortgage companies, credit unions in the state of Minnesota and Texas. So everybody benefits from, you know, sharing the deals, so to speak. But again, it's your choice. You pick who you want. You do it how you want to do it. And if there are any questions, ask constantly. Ask. And with that, Andrea out. Thank you. I know I ran a little short, but title insurance is, not the most glamorous thing in the world, but it is very important. So with that, I will turn it over for any questions there might be.
Okay, does anyone have a question for Andrea? Okay, quick one. Is there a possibility that Servion Title will be expanding into the Texas market at some point?
We sure hope so. I can't answer that question for definite right now. We are looking at going national with the residential piece of it, since Servion Mortgage lends in 42 states. So we kind of want to follow along behind them, so that yes, we would be able to in the future. I can't give you a timeline on that though.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Any other questions? Okay, then thank you for joining us today. Special thank you to Andrea for sharing all of your industry knowledge with us, and we do appreciate it. Mark your calendars for the next free seminar. This one will be live on Saturday, May 15th from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. We'll have another industry expert sharing their expertise and experience and knowledge on the current state of the housing market. We'll be sending out a follow-up email with the survey about today's webinar. The email will also include Servion's Home Buyer's Guide and contact information. And as long as there's no other questions, once again, thank you for joining us and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye now.
Bye, everyone.